Alright guys, sorry I can't be with you today, but I'm gonna make a video of the practice test so you can watch it as you need to so that you can do great on Friday. So here we go. The first two say just find the inverses. So to find the inverse of a 2 by 2, remember the gesture where you find the determinant, you flip it, you put it in the front, you switch to first and fourth, you change signs on the second two. So multiply the first diagonal, the second diagonal, you get 4. Do reciprocal, put it in the front, switch places with the first number and the fourth number, change signs on the other two, you can't change a sign on 0, and then just multiply by 1/4, so you get -1/4, 0, 2, -1. There's your inverse right there. Number 2, find the inverse of a 3 by 3, and like we did, remember this is the one we did in class, we're gonna do some of it, and then we're gonna that's good enough. We're just gonna use the calculator to find the inverse. So what you need to do in your calculator is go to second matrix. I'm getting there. Go to second matrix and edit. Choose the first matrix. Type in 3 by 3, and then we're going to punch in the numbers. And once your numbers are punched in, you're going to go second quit to save your matrix. Go back to second matrix again. Just hit the number 1, and this symbol should show up on your screen. You should have matrix A like that. Hit your X to the -1 button, which is your inverse button, so that looks like this. Hit enter, and the inverse of this matrix, also change them to fractions. I got a bunch of decimals and I just punched it in, so I'm going to go to math frac and change them. And here's what I'm getting for my inverse. I'm getting -1/2, 3/4, -1/2, -1/2, 5/4, -1/2, -5/4, 19/8, and also -3/4, and that's what I'm getting for that inverse. So it's 3 by 3. And again, you can do that all on the calculator if you want to. I'd rather do number 1 by hand though. Number 3 and 4 both solve systems using matrices. On the 2 by 2, I want to see 3 lines on your paper. I want to see first of all how you set it up. This is called the matrix equation. The coefficient matrix times the variable matrix equals the constant matrix. Okay, remember, because that's a 2 by 2, that's a 2 by 1, that's a 2 by 1. That's what makes it work, because the 2's are the same. So I got to move this first matrix over there. When I move it over, remember, there's no such thing as matrix division. So I'm going to multiply the side over there by the inverse. So I need to find the inverse. So I'm doing the same thing I did number 1. Multiply, multiply, subtract. That gives me -16. Flip it, put it in the front. So I'm putting -1/16 in the front. Switch places with the first and fourth, switch signs on the other two. I'm going to multiply that by what's already over here, that 14/2. Remember, when you multiply, and by the way, before I do the multiplication, that -1/16, I will leave that out there to the very end. And as you multiply matrices, remember you go across, down. So I'm going to go across that row, down, then across that row, and down. And let's see what happens. If I do -1 times 14, you get that. -1 times 2 is -2. That's awesome because it's -16, which works out great with what's in the front. Same thing on the second row. -12 times 14. Let's see, 144. That's -168 plus 8, which is -160, which is also awesome because 16 goes in there. Now my final answer, I'm just going to multiply the -116 through, and I get a +1, a +10, 1 and 10. It's perfect. Good answer. Okay, now number 4, we're going to use the calc, but I do want to see your setup. So I want you to go ahead on number 4 before you start punching numbers in, and let's go ahead and set this up. So do your coefficient matrix, just like we did on the last problem. Do your variable matrix, and then let's do your constant 750. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to take the calculator. This is going to be my matrix A. So I'm going to punch that into matrix A. I'm going to go to edit, do matrix A. This is going to be matrix B, the one over here. I'm not going to worry about the X, Y, Z. That's going to end up being my answer in a second is my X, Y, Z. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and punch those two in. Okay, and after you punch it in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my calculator. I'm going to pull up matrix A onto my screen. I'm going to hit the inverse button because remember, I'm multiplying the inverse of matrix A times that matrix B, hitting times, and then hitting matrix B. And this is what it's given me. It's given me -11, -23, and 7. So that would be your X, Y, and Z for that problem. So you need to kind of write your answer like this, I guess. -11, -23, and 7. And by the way, you can take that, plug it in one of your equations, and double check and make sure it's correct. But as long as you punch your numbers in right, your calculator's not going to mess up for you. Number 5, find the determinant. The determinant is a one number value only. So I'm going to multiply this way, which is 1/4. Multiply the other way, which is 1/8. And if you do 1/4 minus 1/8, you get 1/8. So that's the determinant. 3 by 3. Remember, looking for the easiest row or easiest column, and it's going to be the first row. Okay, now what we learned the other day is the zeros you don't have to worry about. So the only thing I have to worry about in that first row is that -1. And that -1 is in the, let's see, it's in the first row in the second column. So it leaves me these numbers. It leaves me with the, I don't need the bracket. It leaves me with the 2, the 4, the 1, and the 3. Now, don't forget about the -1. The -1 is in row 1, column 2, which if you add 1 and 2, it's odd. So that means you got to put a minus in front, which really just means change the sign in the front. So really just a 1 in the front. And that 1 times anything is itself. So I'm not even going to worry about the 1. I'm just going to do the determinant of that 2 by 2. And it's going to give me 6 minus 4, which is 2. And there's your determinant of a 3 by 3. Okay, not a huge deal there. Number 7, find the area of the triangle. I'm not sure we did this in class. I don't know we didn't, but here's all you do. This is on the video though. Okay, so there's my excuse. It was on the video. So what you do, you put the 1/2 in the front. You put each point in 0, 0, 6, 3, 2, 8. Your last column, you just put all ones. Okay, and we're just going to work that out. Now, the only thing you need to know about this in advance is that 1, don't forget the 1/2 is there. And 2, because we're finding area, it's got to be positive. So the answer is actually the absolute value of this determinant. So I'm going to put the 1/2 here. Obviously, again, the first row looks great. It goes 0, 0, 1. So all I'm going to worry about is that 1. So I'm going to do 1/2. That's going to be in front. The 1, and if I take out the 1, that's this row in that column. So it leaves 6, 3, 2, 8. Okay, so again, I don't have to worry about the 1 because 1 times anything is itself. So inside 6 times 8 and 2 times 3. So it's going to give me 1/2 of 42, which is 21. And that's the area. So again, put your points in the first 2 columns. The last column's all ones, put a 1/2 in the front, and just do the math. Okay, no big deal there. Number 8 and 9, solve the systems. You can choose your method pretty much, whatever you think works the best. On this first one, it looks like elimination worked great. So I'm going to multiply that top equation by 4, which is going to give me 12x squared minus 4y squared equals 44. Second equation is going to bring straight across, x squared plus 4y squared equals 8. So it gives me 13x squared, the y squareds are gone, equals 52. 13 just happens to go to 52 4 times. Take the square root, there's my x's, plus or minus 2. So I'm going to take the positive 2, plug it in. Oh no, it looks like it may be easier to plug it in right there. If I plug positive 2 in there, 2 squared is 4. What do you add to 4 to get 8? You add 4. So that's got to be 4, which means you could be positive or negative 1 for your y. Do the same thing with the negative 2, put negative 2 in there. And you get the same thing. I'll work it out for you this time. If I put a negative 2 in there, it gives me 4 plus 4y squared equals 8. So if you move the 4 over, it gives you 4. If you divide by 4, you get 1. Take the square root, you get plus or minus 1. So technically, I could have put the answer plus or minus 2, plus or minus 1. That would have been just fine. Or you can write 2 solutions. It's really 4 solutions like that. So no matter how you write them, you're good. And the second one, I'm going to do elimination again here, but I have to get rid of the y squared because I have an x on both sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change all the signs in the second equation, and I'm going to do my addition. So the first thing I notice is the y squareds are gone. I have a negative x squared over here. On this side I've got a negative x and a minus 2. So because I'm going to have to factor, I'm going to take the negative x squared to the right hand side, make it x squared minus x minus 2. Factor that. You'd factor that with an x minus 2 and an x plus 1, which will give you these 2 answers. It'll give you 2 and negative 1. Now with the 2 and negative 1, obviously you have to plug it back in. You can plug it either one you want to. I'm going to take the top. If I plug 2 in the top equation, that's going to give me 4 minus y squared equals 1. So if I move that 4 over, it gives me negative 3. Change signs, it gives me y is 3. So y is going to be plus or minus square root of 3 if I plug in my 2. If I plug in negative 1 in the top, and if I plug it in, if I square it, it's positive 1 minus y squared equals 1, which means negative y squared is going to equal 0, which means y squared is going to be 0, or y is going to be 0. So There's your solutions to that system. Number 10, find the slope of the tangent line. That's just finding the limit. So I'm going to set that one up like we did a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to go the limit as h approaches 0 of f of h minus 1 because of the negative 1 minus f of negative 1 all over h. And I'm just going to plug in, obviously, the h minus 1. So it's going to be 4 times h minus 1 squared minus 3 times h minus 1. Now don't forget this part. Don't forget the f negative 1. If you plug in negative 1, you do get 7. So I'm going to do minus 7 all over h. Now, two things need to happen here. This 7 needs to cancel first. It needs to go away. And then later, this h needs to disappear so that I can plug in my 0. So I'm just going to keep doing the work here. The limit as h goes to 0. I'm just going to work all that stuff out, do a bunch of math. I'm going to square this and multiply by 4 at the same time. So I'm doing square, multiply, double square, and multiply by 4. So if I do square, it's h squared, so it'll be 4h squared. If I do multiply together double, it's negative 2h. But multiply by 4 is negative 8h. Square of the 1 is 1, but it's really going to be 4. So I'm going to put a 4. I'm going to distribute the negative 3. And I've got the minus 7. Now, one thing I really like, I have a 4 and a 3. 4 plus 3 is 7, and I have a negative 7. So those are out of here. And that gives me the limit as h approaches 0 of, that's over h by the way, of 4h squared minus 8h. Oops, I can combine the 8h and 3h minus 11h all over h. 2 more steps and we got it. Cancel the h's, so I have the limit as h approaches 0 of 4h minus 11 if you cancel the h's. Now I'm good to plug in the 0. If I plug in the 0, that just leaves me negative 11. And guys, that's the slope of the tangent line, is at negative 11. Okay, so just got to do that limit there, the derivative. It's called the derivative. All right, number 11. Factor that using the binomial theorem. A couple things we know already. This is a one step. We just got to kind of see this. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms in my answer, so I know I'm going to have something to the 4th power. And because it goes 1, 4, 6, 4, 1, those are the coefficients for the 4th power. And because it ends with y to the 4th, I'm just going to put a y there. That's how it's going to end. What I really need to figure out is how to get to x to the 8th for the first term. And I get that by putting an x squared here. Because if you do x squared to the 4th power, it gives you x to the 8th. So there it is right there. Hope that helps. Use it as much as you need to. Y'all were talking earlier in the week about triple digits. This is the week for triple digits. Let's do it. I'll see y'all tomorrow. And also, by the way, I'll be at school early tomorrow. If you need any help, I'll be there during lunch. Any other time, if you need to ask any questions, come see me. We'll work it out. See you tomorrow.